Welcome everybody to the Farmington Board of Selectmen's meeting for Tuesday, January 12th, 2021. Item number 1, pledge allegiance to the flag. Stand, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good. Move on to item number 2, to approve the transfer of criminal forfeiture assets consisting of $759 in currency as a result of a drug investigation.
Chief Cody is here.
So that was as a result of a drug overdose investigation. We determined who provided the drugs to the person that overdosed. We were able to charge him with aggravated trafficking, and in the process, we were able to seize that money, and through the, I don't know if they pled or were found guilty, but we have been authorized to keep that money pending the approval of the board.
In your email to me, you said that the perpetrator has pled guilty.
Pled, yes, it's in the letter right there that's right in front of Matt.
I would take the letter.
Yeah.
That requires a signature.
That does require signature. I'll leave that here tonight, and I can come pick that up tomorrow, so that Nancy can get a copy of it.
Great.
And what will be the path of receiving that? Will it go to a line item, a reserve account, a dedicated account? How will it?
I'd like it to go in, we have an account for the drug education and equipment reserve account.
So that's your request then?
Yes, please.
I so move that.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept, to approve the transfer of criminal forfeited assets consisting of $759 in currency. Any more questions or comments? If not, Rick?
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Very good. I'll pick that paper up tomorrow. Whenever you're available. Thank you.
Have a good night, Shane.
Thanks.
Okay, moving along to item number 3, to approve an expenditure of $12,740 from the sewer department equipment vehicle reserve account to replace a generator transfer switch at the wastewater treatment plant.
This request comes to you from Steve Millett, superintendent, and I did include in your packet an email from Mike Carlton at IDC, and it explains the cost of this auto transfer switch replacement, which is currently non-functional at this point on the generator that runs the wastewater treatment plant, or at least portions of it.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the expenditure of $12,740 from the sewer department equipment vehicle reserve account to replace the generator transfer switch. You only have, we know how much is in the reserve account?
I don't have that number. It's definitely a lot more than this, but I don't have that number right.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had a question in regards to, I know that the policy's been the $5,000 limitation and put it up to bid, and I'm not saying that Integrity does great work, and that's fine, and I don't think they're sticking it to us in it by any means, but correct me if I'm wrong, is that the policy of the board when it goes over to 5,000, that we try to put it up to bid? It seems of late that the last kind of trending away from that, so I didn't mean, I'm not opposed to if we need to adjust the policy to make it a higher number, but I know that they work, IEC does work with the sewer department quite a bit. So we're familiar with it. I don't see that if we have a policy, if we don't go with the policy, then why don't we have a policy?
Well, there is flexibility in the policy. You can waive that for, this is considered an emergency situation, but there's some urgency to it.
All right, thank you.
Well, I kind of concur. When is it that a department should, when a piece of equipment or something happens and it's got to be replaced and it involves a contractor and a piece of equipment, that you do almost automatically put it out for bid?
Well, there are certain things that we, large expenditures that we do put out to bids regularly or on a periodic basis, things like our insurances or audits. The town report is one that doesn't even meet that $5,000 limitation, but we put that out to bid every year. So generally, I think we try to stick with that policy, although $5,000 might be a low number, which can make it difficult. So.
I think it's probably something we should visit in the future, just to see if we do want to amend it. And
Yeah.
go from there. Does that work for everybody?
Well, I mean, you either make it a policy or the town manager makes it known to the department heads that when situation like this arises, that you try your best, tell them, Steve, Noel, or whoever, try and get 2 or 3 bids if you could, and they either will or they won't, and say, but at least they would know that you're holding them somewhat accountable.
Right. Yep.
Without written a big black ink on white paper policy and all that, because sometimes even though you need it now, and you just do it. But it would be a good message to send, I guess, to us.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm happy with that going forward. Obviously, on this one where the dollar amounts have already been explained by, it's hard to go back and think it's a competitive opportunity, so I look forward to that discussion later on.
That works.
And when you're in a situation with sewerage and an emergency pump or a switch, I would think you don't want to wait around too long to repair it.
But the flexibility would be in there to make that decision.
Particularly where the vendor notes on this one, there's quite a lead time, just from when we say go.
To get it in.
Even get it going.
That's right.
Perfect. We good with that? Ready? All right, we're ready for a vote.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Mr. Bunker?
Jake?
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yeah,
Mr. Landry?
Yes,
Good, thank you for that. Moving on to item number 4, sorry, to approve the holdover from 2020 of $4,000 in the community center land and property line.
You have a memo from Director Matt Foster explaining that because of difficulty in getting contractors to do the smaller jobs, we were not able to complete a couple of projects that we wanted. One of them was to make some improvements over the doors, above the doors at the community center, so that snow can shed more easily. Doesn't build up there to the point where it lets go and can injure people, which we have had happen. So he's asking to carry over that $4,000, hopefully to be used this year to complete that work. Oh, and that was also is doing some work in the downstairs weight room, installing a new door in the concrete wall. That would be included in it.
I make a motion that we approve the holdover of $4,000 from community center land and property.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the holdover from 2020 of $4,000 in the community center land and property line. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we're ready?
Okay, Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Jake?
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
yeah,
Mr. Landry?
yes.
Thank you for that. Moving on to item number 5, determine the method by which to conduct the 2021 annual town meeting. Everybody get their crystal ball out.
Well, I mean, as you all know, there's a 50-person limit on indoor meetings, and I expect that's going to be still in place in March, the way things are trending. So, you know, there are a couple of options, I guess. One, you could possibly do some kind of outdoor thing, and keep people separated, but I don't think you'd want to attempt that in March, given the uncertainty of the weather. So-
Especially since we haven't had winter yet.
So, I mean,
Out of control.
you know, you're looking at May or June for something like that. The other option, I really only see a couple of options. The other one that I'm leaning towards would be to hold it by referendum, by secret ballot referendum. And if you determine to do that, then there are some deadlines that have to be met. It has to be, the clerk has to be notified 30 days ahead, and we have to hold a public hearing, which would be difficult in itself. I think to get enough public input for people to understand what it is that we're asking them to approve. So, and, you know, that with the 45 or so articles that we generally have, the ballot runs to several pages, 4 or 5 pages, and that means that, you know, people are gonna be in the voting booth for quite a while, so it'd be run the same way the presidential election was, or any secret ballot election, except I expect it would take longer for people to get through all of those articles and vote on. But, you know, what we have, the budget for 2021 includes funds for that approach if the board determines to go that way. And, you know, I'm open to other options, but I think I've given this a lot of thought, and you know, towns do this all the time. Some of them, that's their regular way of running the town meeting, and I personally, I think it's probably the most practical approach. And under the emergency executive orders, some of the requirements to do that have been waived. Generally, you have to have a town meeting vote to allow you to do that, and you can't do that again at a town meeting any other way. So that's not required. But some of the other requirements, and the 30-day notification, I think, is shortened up from 60 maybe, as far as notifying the clerk, getting the articles to the clerk, getting them published, and all that. So there still is a fair amount of work that goes into producing that, going that route. But I think it's the most practical approach to this, where we can't have people inside, again, only 50 people inside the building. I think there is also some flexibility with it in that we would have more time perhaps to get it ready. We wouldn't have to have it March, you know, at the end of March, like we always have the town meeting. We could have it in April maybe, but it'd be good, you know, and to get it done in the spring. Because I don't know for sure what happens if the articles don't pass. You have to put them out there again until it does pass, and I don't know whether it's just those that don't pass or the whole thing has to be voted again. I don't have a lot of familiarity with it, but I can consult with my colleagues who do this process and see, get some advice from them. I did get a sample ballot from the town of Jay. The manager was good enough to provide that, so we know what it looks like. It's just like any other secret ballot. We just circle your choice. So that's my thoughts on it, and I welcome yours. You have to have a town meeting, and how we're going to do it is the question. So.
Any other thoughts? I agree with what you're saying, but any other options you've thought of or heard of?
Yeah, what are other towns doing? You've heard from others?
Well, you know, I guess what they did over in Wilton was they had it in the parking lot at the old gas factory, and they had chairs set up so that everybody was, you know, 6 feet apart and so forth. I think there've been places where they've had it at a drive-in and people honk their horn and raise a red for a yes, a green for yes, a red for no. I don't know.
That seems, yeah.
Well, you spend all day counting, you try and get an
Two
accurate.
people with binoculars.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, those options, they kind of work, I guess, but they're they're not the best options, really. In my opinion, I mean, again, I don't know what other options there are, really.
So in regards to the 50-person limit, is it based off square footage? Or is it, just I was thinking if, I can't think of, I mean, I live in the high school and I'm sure the high school wouldn't let us use the building anyways. But, so say if it was a bigger enough building, can you have more than 50 people in that building?
It is based on square footage, but there is a
A max,
maximum of 50 people.
Okay. I know in the store, like, I live exactly where.
Like in here, for example, normal capacity is over 100 people, I think, in here, but obviously we can't have
Right.
more than, couldn't even have 50 in here and maintain a
Right,
6-foot
right.
separation.
Right.
It's
I-
that 6-foot separation.
Right, I
that controls.
understand that, I just didn't know if it was bigger, if we could get it or not. So.
No, unfortunately. I mean,
not-
one possibility is, you could have 50 people upstairs and 50 people downstairs at the community center. If you can have a video link that allows both floors to see and hear and vote and be counted. But typically, we have more than 100 people show up for town meeting. If there's 120 people, 130 people show up,
Right.
what do? You can't turn people away. So I'm not sure that option would work. I've
Right.
given that some thought, but it would, with the 50 limit, there's room to do that, but, getting the video link set up and all that too might be tricky.
Right.
I'm good. You got a question, Steve?
We'll go alphabetically, Mike.
You done, Doug?
Well, no, I was gonna just ask in regard, I'm not opposed to the idea of putting it on referendum, and I think for the public hearing, we could do it the same way as people vote, maybe they could move people through the community center. You know, like have somebody come in if they had a question in regards to one of the items, then they could ask it, and then
That's a good idea,
just
actually.
move through that way, and then they could ask a question and move, not that they had to leave, but we try to number the amount of people coming through the community center, and then
Generally,
give them an
you
opportunity to
don't get
ask.
that many people actually show up for a public hearing anyway.
Right.
Steve was at the planning board meeting last night, and I guess there were very few people there, even though it was a very controversial application, so.
I mean, it just seems like that at least gives the people the opportunity to ask a question if they want to. I mean, if we did it the day before the vote, or, I don't
I
know.
think there has to be some separation there, maybe
Oh, okay.
it's 7
7
days
days
or
or
something like that.
Okay.
I'll have to research that.
All right, and then I did have a question, I'll try to remember it before the end, I forgot already, so, thank you.
Mike?
Well, the thing against, well, the issue that I see is if you take the selectmen, the budget committee, the aides who do the ballots and stuff, the secretaries, and the department heads,
Mhm.
you pretty much hit 50 right there. Although it's pretty close to 50 people, so it doesn't leave much room for the general public.
For a public hearing? Or you mean if you were gonna try to do it onto the?
Yeah, when they limit any gathering to 50, then we can let 3 townspeople in, that's it. So we've taken up the bulk of that 50, so you
Right.
have to look well beyond that
Yeah,
in order to do what it is we're trying to do.
well, and that's where the referendum would work if you have counters at the door like we've had, and you can only have 50 people in the building at a time, but they're moving through as they're voting, so. That's another advantage to.
Would you run the referendum with the whole budget, and they check, approve, disapprove, whatever,
Yep,
Every article.
every article?
yep.
And then however many people are outside wanting to come in, they come in and do that, then you tally it up.
Right, just like the general election.
Steve?
So for them to hear the presentation of the ballot, you'd require of them to, of the warrant, you would put the pressure on them to, their responsibility to read it, not
Yes.
say it what it's saying.
And go to the town, to the public hearing, and presumably we would have the town report out as well at that time.
We all have email address. They can, request, they can get a hold of us, call us, they can, at any point too.
We all do, but you know as well as I, most would rather, they'll come into the town report, said they'd listen to what the moderator says. And then they'll make their reaction. They haven't read it and studied it and asked questions and done any of that.
Yeah.
But this is an atypical year though.
Yeah.
I
This
understand.
is,
No, I have no problem with that. I just realize what happens when you put that burden upon the individuals, that responsibility.
Well, that's why the public hearing is critical, I think.
yeah.
It is a daunting thought that we would want to depend upon an informed public. They go down through the board,
Yeah.
checking off those critical kinds of decisions, but you're right, even a regular town meeting, like Mike would say, many people, they're opening up and they're following, that's the first time they've cracked the binder.
Remember now, we're on camera.
Well, again, I don't mean to be disrespectful, those few that do come is great, but I'm disappointed on how few there are. And if we're gonna do it this way, we're even more incumbent upon people reading, and be willing to ask good questions, and do come to the poll and make an informed decision. Or not, we've even got a tinier bit of population that's making decisions than we do a regular town meeting. I guess that's my only, it's not a reservation, that's my only concern about doing it by a referendum basis, is how can we convey to citizens and give them the opportunity to ask questions, to come to some kind of a gathering if they want to talk about highway or police protection or whatever, to get them to come to a little, no, I don't know if we could do that by asking for questions to come in by emails also, or a written form that we could read to the group and report, perhaps through Mount Blue TV, and that's there so people can see that their question was recognized and answered, and people can hear it.
So like somebody could write a question and mail it or email for the public hearing.
Yeah.
I wonder?
And we also, we have the call-in as well. We can always do that.
Could we proceed the referendum part of it with maybe a day or a week before? Have it set up like we've got here? Or maybe take the community center, have all the interested parties, not, the select people, the fire department, all the board chairs and everybody, be there to answer questions, and then take
That
it
would be,
later.
that would be the required public hearing,
Yeah, it would put us, it would make it a 2-day event.
It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody who comes to vote has been to the public hearing.
But they would have at least had the option to participate
We
in
have
some
to,
kind of
we're
discussion.
required to provide that opportunity,
Yeah.
yes.
Is it,
Hold on.
go ahead.
Hold that thought.
What was in regards to the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, then mine's a different question.
On hold then, Mike. What do you got?
Well, I was wondering if it behooves us to, can we do what this is asking us to do, is to determine a method? Can you we say tonight, this is how we're gonna do it? Or would it behoove us to have a public hearing to see what the public thinks about it before we cast it in stone? This is our whole new way of doing it. You're
It is.
presenting it. Do you go out to the community and ask them what they think of that? Or do we just tell them this is what we're doing? That's kind of harsh, but that's my,
Yeah, I mean, what other alternative would they have that they could present to us that we haven't discussed here?
Just drag
We'd
it
have to
out.
wait till midsummer if we're gonna do anything outdoors. And then it's a crapshoot from there.
Yeah, if it's gonna rain.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it will, Mother Nature.
And as much as folks might like to have a traditional one, their sentiment cannot waive the requirements of COVID and total number of people. We can wish for that, but we may not be able to change it.
No, that's true. Josh?
And that's why we're elected sometimes to make decisions.
We pay the big
At
bucks.
that point,
But
sometimes
I mean, that's how I feel. But my other question is in regards to, So how is it gonna look on the ballot with the budget committee and the selectmen? Because I believe the way they meet with the finance committee,
Mhm.
they don't have budget committee, finance committee, what they call it. And I think they make a decision and then and then it goes to the selectmen, and I think then they put the ballot together? Is that how that works?
Well, I think it's gonna be pretty much the way we've done it, where you both boards proceed on a parallel track, and then when you take your vote, and I think you take your vote first, and then the budget committee takes this vote, or the other way, I guess it's the other way
It's supposed to
around.
be the other way, but usually
And
works
then
out.
you're either gonna agree or on the articles or disagree, and then those recommendations will be put on the ballot, the same way we do with our regular warrant.
Right, so, but
Town meeting.
how it's gonna be questioned is, are you in favor of this amount? Are you in favor of that amount, if they're different? That's what I'm asking, so to the public, when they look at a ballot, normally it's
Yeah.
either yay or nay.
Yep,
Are you in favor of it, or are you opposed to it? Then, are you gonna say, are you in favor in this one, or that one, or the department head request? You know, could we put that in there too, the department head requested this amount?
yeah, again, I'd have to look at Jay's ballot, I don't think it gets
Right,
that.
I don't wanna make it confusing to the public.
Right, I think there's just one option that is offered, and they give the vote of the Board of Selectmen recommends,
Right.
and then then the actual vote, whether it's 4-1, and then I think they did the same thing with the Budget Committee. If they didn't recommend it, I don't know if they put a different amount on there, I'm not sure.
Okay, so, but it's only, that's what I'm asking, though, the
Yeah.
public, so when they go to vote, are they in favor of it?
Yeah.
I just don't wanna make it confusing so that the public's gonna be aware of their voting yes or no.
Yeah, I don't know, I think, I gotta look at it, I think you only give them one amount to vote on, if you give them two amounts, they're probably always gonna vote on the lower amount.
Or they,
Or they just-
they vote for both, and you're like, okay,
math
so we
confusing,
discard
yeah.
that, or, I just don't, I wanna make, I'm sure there's a way we legally have to public vote.
Yeah, some ballots, like any election, could be invalidated, I guess, if they're not
Mhm.
understanding,
That's
they
true.
would have to be thrown out.
Right,
So,
Well, how would you deal with, at what point would you deal with a community member wanting to adjust it? Make a motion to
They would have,
cut it by $5,000.
they'd have to vote no, and if enough people vote no, then I guess you have to put out another
So if they-
referendum.
so if they didn't like it?
Yep.
If they didn't like the amount,
Yeah.
and whether they wanted, well, if they wanted it higher, they probably vote yes, because they ain't gonna get higher, but lower,
Careful.
then they
That's
just
the
vote
law.
no.
It's
Don't you
a-
hit that, they had not too long ago, it went a lot higher.
Oh, yeah, so you,
Increase.
but you can't, well, yeah, I mean, you can't tell them what they can do and can't do, but if you just look at it, then someone could just, you would hope not, but they would just click no, and because it's too high, so
Yep, some people will do that in every article.
Yeah, there won't be any fill in the blank options.
Thank you, creator.
And if we, like I say, if we get enough, if an item gets voted down, we'll revisit it and have to put it back out again for
Yeah,
another vote.
I think to, like anything else, you have to rely on an informed public.
You do.
And that's where, I like, the public hearing is gonna be critical, and I like the idea of maybe having it a 2-day thing, at the community center.
And we're gonna have to heavily advertise this. We'll advertise it as, this is not typical, this is where we're gonna do it this year. And, put our phone numbers, our emails, put it out there so people, hopefully we can encourage people to get a hold of us. And talk to us about it.
We should.
Well, and say again, if you have a public hearing, will you have it more than one time? More than once during a day, or how would you?
Well, I don't know, Scott was saying maybe, have like a forum that lasts a couple of days, but I don't know, who's gonna show up, you just don't know. people generally, they don't turn out heavily for public hearings, so, you know, I guess you try it for one day and see what happens, see who turns out.
Well, if you set it up, say, I don't know just what it is, what would be being said at this meeting, but they would, if you, just say you had it from 4 to 5, and then 6 to 7 on Tuesday. So they try and find the time to come either between 4 and 5. If they get there at 4, you're going to give them information, take the questions, answer their questions. Yep, thank you very much. See you. And then another group would come in. If you had even more to come, you didn't
We
satisfy
had that big of a
everybody,
crowd.
then you would have to, you would either have to do it 3 times in a day, or you'd go to the next day.
I think you just schedule, you block out a period of 2 hours, and whoever shows up, they get their questions answered, and if there's more than 50 people, then you apologize and say, we'll do this again tomorrow.
Have another meeting already planned, it's easier to cancel it than it is to plan it.
Could
We'll
go
advertise
outside
it.
and then come back in.
Yeah, no, we'd be okay with it.
If we did it a few days ahead and they're videoing it, we could run that video, you know, to tell everybody this is gonna be available
True.
to be observed on Mount Blue TV,
That's
you
true.
can live
Good
stream
idea.
it.
Yeah, and they could watch it then. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people will, there'll be no excuse for them not being able to find it unless they don't have a turn on a computer.
Right.
We have this fancy digital sign now.
Yes.
A lot of people drive by.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
sure we can
We can advertise.
advertise on it.
Sell pizzas.
And if we opt to want to also encourage writing questions, that's when the
Absolutely.
question and the answer
Mhm.
can be read at that same gathering.
Good. So, I guess, you know, that's my recommendation. I guess I will need a vote.
I'd make the motion, seeing that it's not really any other good ones to go with, but, and this seems to work, and I think it's gonna be a public input the best we can. So I make the motion that we do this year's 2020 annual town meeting by referendum. And obviously, we don't have all the exact details
Right.
figured out until when we receive those and go by then.
Does that include prior?
Yes, and
Yeah.
in the motion, you include a public hearing.
You've got to do that.
Yeah, we'll work with the counties.
Tell them about the prior meeting.
Yeah.
Public hearing.
I would second.
There's been a motion and a second to hold the 2021 town meeting, annual town meeting by referendum. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
I only had one. In
Yeah.
regards to the date, do you think we'll have enough time? Or you want to try to, are you thinking in April?
I'm thinking maybe April, where this is
Okay.
all brand new.
Figure it out.
It might take us a little longer to work our way through it,
Okay.
to figure it out.
You have more advertising space too.
Yeah.
No, my only thing is, you know, strongly encourage public input. We've got to have it this year,
Incredible.
so. Yep, ready for it?
Okay, Mr. Smith,
Yay.
Mr. Bunker,
Yay.
Mr. Fogg,
Yes.
Mr. Bell,
Yay.
Mr. Landry.
Yes.
Unanimous, thank you all for that.
Thank you.
Moving on, item number 6, to approve the minutes of January 5th, 2021.
So much.
Thank you.
A motion and a second to approve the minutes of January 5th, 2021.
Mr. Smith,
Yay.
Mr. Bunker,
Yay.
Mr. Fogg,
Yes.
Mr. Bell,
Yay.
Mr. Landry.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Unanimous. Moving on to item number 7, discuss other business. You got anything, Richard?
I don't have much, just the advisory committee for the police chief search will be meeting Thursday night, going over applications and determining who to interview. So we're moving ahead with that.
Steve?
I'm good.
Mr. Fogg?
well, I'm good.
Yeah, well, okay, then. That was a lot of thought, huh?
Well,
You had trouble, so.
Let me leave it there for a minute.
get moving along before I change my mind.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Sorry. With Shane being here tonight, and then when you just mentioning that again, and maybe I missed it at that meeting, what, did we adjust Shane's wage?
To the full.
To the full chief's wage? Okay, I wanted to make, I'm sure we did, but I just, I
Yes.
thought it was.
Yeah, you did.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all, thank you.
Perfect.
Just a quick question, I would imagine the highway budget must be running efficiently or under expected.
Yes, pretty well. I mean, we haven't had a lot of plowing storms, and beyond that, it's been good that they've been able to do some brush cutting, chipping, and patching, and all of those sort of things that normally they wouldn't be able to because of the plowing. So I think we're in pretty good shape. But right now, we just started a new budget year, too.
But that could change.
Yes,
Yeah,
it could.
February is coming.
I got them whacking brush out on the Weeks Mills Road the other day, they were right hard at it.
Yeah,
They were
good,
really impressive.
good.
I understand we have a new chief mechanic on and operating.
Jeff Fitch has been with us for a month or so, 6
Yeah.
weeks. He's doing a great job, did things right up to snuff. so,
You hired somebody new for the sidewalk.
Yes,
Right.
Mike Sawyer,
Yep.
and I guess he's doing a good job too, from what I've heard.
Yep.
And it was, is it Brandon?
Brandon
Brandon
Barr.
Barr.
Is that paid status?
He won't be able to come back, he's healing very well, but he won't be able to come back and drive until April, so.
Oh, okay, well, that's not that.
I just saw him walking around his house the other day, so that was no last
He
house.
was was he in?
No.
Or he was coming?
He did meet with Phil today, he did come over to the town office.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Good to see him up and moving.
Yes, for sure.
So. You know, Scott?
I'm all set.
Cool. And I don't have anything tonight.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Hold on, Mike stuck his finger up.
Checking the wind?
There's a problem on the expended to date,
Pardon?
expended to date on all the different departments,
Yes,
hasn't been filled in. Will we get that appropriation sheet?
yes, you will, that's.
We will get that, whichever department it is, sometime later.
Or-
Add to
or-
our budget book.
Yes, for all of the departments, as soon as the books are closed out, there was one final warrant, and so Lucy's working on all that stuff. It might be another week or so, but usually you get them around the middle of January.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is all I have.
You good now, Mike? Okay.
I'll second his motion.
The motion has been, motion second to adjourn. Any more questions, comments, Mike? Great, Coco.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Hey,
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
Thank you all. Have a good week.